my name is Liz Perdomo, and for my HJS 250 course, me and my four classmates were assigned the 1948 World War II Nuremberg Trials. We each have our own sections to speak on, so I hope you enjoy. The documentary opens by showing Europe in ruins after World War II. Cities leveled, civilians in despair, you can immediately see why the world demanded accountability. At the Palace of Justice in Nuremberg, the Allies established the International Military Tribunal to judge the top Nazi leaders. This was the first trial of its kind, and the stakes couldn't have been higher. Justice Robert Jackson, the chief American prosecutor, delivers the opening statement. He calls it a grave responsibility to hold the trial for crimes against war or peace. Notice his point that his four victorious nations could have been taking revenge, but instead shows law that he calls a tribute that powers has ever paid to reason. Jackson describes the defendants as living symbols of arrogance, cruelty, racial hatred, terrorism, and militarism. The trial is about more than individuals. It exposes the dangerous systems and ideologies behind Nazism. Importantly, the prosecution relies on the Nazis' own records, documents, and films. They didn't need enemy testimony. This matches historical fact and is one of the reasons historians say that trials were fair and credible. Jackson also condemns the defendants for having bathed the world in blood, setting civilization back. Next, the documentary explains count one of the indictment, the conspiracy among Nazi leaders to commit crimes against peace, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. It traces the conspiracy back to the 1920s, showing early Nazi ideology. The master race doctrine justified domination or extermination of other races. The Führer principle demanded total obedience to Hitler. The Nazis believed war was noble and necessary ideas clearly outlined in Mein Kampf and the party program. The film also explains how the Nazis seized power through fraud, intimidation, and terror. One key moment in the Reichstag fire, according to former Berlin police official Haska Savius, it was orchestrated by Goebbels as a propaganda campaign, with Goering ensuring the police followed by a false trail. Historians debate details, but this interpretation is widely considered plausible. Once in power, the Nazis abandoned peace. Germany left the disarmament conference and the League of Nations. Secret rearmament began under Goering, Skat, and Funk, and compulsory military service was introduced in 1935, supported by leading defendants like Hess, Frick, and von Neurath. By 1936, troops marched into the Rhineland, pledging loyalty to Hitler. The documentary makes it clear that aggressive war was not accidental, it was deliberately planned and executed by the very men in the courtroom.
Hi, I will be presenting section 2, starting with the rise of Hitler, a new army, and the acts that led to Germany's power. So first, Hitler creates a new army based on propaganda and allegiance. Hitler does this by convincing the German people that they are fighting for victory and pledging allegiance to the Führer. For his plan, he holds a secret meeting in 1937, which he declares to conquer Czechoslovakia and Austria, creating Nazi expansion. And Hitler uses political power and coercion to force the resignation of the Austrian chancellor. He gives an ultimatum to march into Austria, or he will use force. And Act One was basically to annex Austria, but publicly Germany claimed no affairs and kept the whole thing friendly. And Act Two was called Operation Green, and it was more focused on Czechoslovakia, and the Nazis wanted to smash the country into military action. So Germany also wanted to fix an incident, so they had justification to intervene for their political agenda. Next, we have Operation Green and the Non-Aggression Pact. So Germany signs many pact with countries, claiming their last territorial demands that they will basically stop invading other countries. Hitler claims peace, but later breaks his word not once but many times. Since Germany had occupied Rhineland, seized Czechoslovakia and Austria, their next agenda was to invade Poland. The other nations in the world continued to ask Germany for peace, but Hitler continued the destruction and invasion of Poland. So, the Non Aggression Treaty was a treaty that Germany signs with many countries, North and South of Europe, like Denmark, Belgium, for peace, but they still continue to invade. And this is something funny in the film. Well, not very funny, but the film shows Germany signing all these treaties but breaking it immediately. So, the film kind of shows like kind of shock and emotion, and that brings to our question whether it's propaganda. So, while we have that question, I do believe the film does a good job of showing the truth, but the audience intended is the U.S. Army to learn about the war. So there are some elements, like I said, that convey emotion and shock.
Tensions between nations. We see the Nazi Party using excessive force and violence in Germany's invasion of Poland. Troops were sent out on all four sides of Poland. There were attacks on civilians, the mass murder of civilians and prisoners of war. There was destruction of property. All of these considered war crimes. The invasion of Poland was the start of World War II. Germany had created the Axis Pact, which is known as the blueprint of the New Order, which formed an alliance between Italy, Japan, and Germany and was signed upon. Their aims being to use invasion as a way to expand their territories. Italy would get the Mediterranean sphere, Japan would get the Orient, and Germany would get the rest of the world. There was both land and air warfare taking place. Japan, who had already formed an alliance with Germany, had struck the United States, known as the attack on Pearl Harbor, and this was when the United States declared war on both Germany and Japan. Crimes committed by Nazis. Count 3 and 4 of the Nuremberg Trials were crimes against humanity and war crimes. The murder, including the murder of all those who opposed the Nazi Party, and the enslavement, exploitation, and deportation of civilians. The Nazi Party had ruthless and violent policies. Crimes against whole populations were planned in advance, also known as premeditated destruction and forced labor in horrible conditions. The concentration camps, we see German anti Nazis were the first victims, but then it included citizens across all European nations. They would separate prisoners who were chosen for execution. There were medical procedures that would take place, these being sterilization experiments, experiments with poison bullets and diseases, and pressure chambers. 2.5 million victims were executed by gassing and burning, and 500,000 died from starvation, a total of 3 million victims.
Justice served in October 1946. After World War II, the Allies held their Nuremberg trials. In October 1946, the judge gave their final sentence. 10 Nazi leaders like Göring, Ribbentrop, and Kater were sentenced to death. Others were sent to prison. Hess, Funk, and Rader got life in jail. Tony got 10 years. Three men, Eschak, Bonpepin, and Frichet, were found not guilty. This shows that the court was fair. It was not revenge. It was justice based on evidence. The Nuremberg trials were the first international war crimes court. They prove that leaders can be punished and not just countries. The judge says aggressive war and crimes against humanity are crimes under the law. The sentence was carried out in October 1946. Goring killed himself the night before his execution. The trials become a model for later courts in Yugoslavia, Rwanda, and international criminal courts. They also strengthened human rights around the world. The message was clear: tyranny and genocide will not go unpunished. Numbers show a new path, moving from war to law and from chaos to justice. In one year, number turned the aim of the war into a start of international justice, and it still matters for today.